Once your tests have finished, if you want to see the results, the reports on those, then you're going to come back to TEAC score, go over to reports and click on instructional. You can also click right here and it will give you the reports. But your instructional ones are the ones I usually use. We've got teacher reports, student reports, trend and comparison. The trend one is kind of nice to see how they're doing over the course of the year. But the rest of these tests for a district as small as ours, you don't really need. But the instructional reports, we can look at the whole district, campus, or teacher. If you're looking up your own, this is what you're going to want to use. So you click on that, then it'll bring you over all of the tests that belong to you. Pick a test, and then I'm going to select the name. If that's your test, it will be your name, so you'd have to select it. And then you come over here to reports. Performance summary is a good one that you'd want to see. Student performance, that tells you the individual level, not just the whole class. Item analysis gives you all the questions and how they did on all the question numbers and the TEACs that went with them and the SEs that went with them and how they did on those. Item comparison, if you want to know question by question how many answered A, how many answered B, how many answered C, how many answered D, then this is your report. Item mastery tells you what mastery they had on the non-multiple choice questions. So if you're wanting to see, are they really not doing well on a certain type of non-multiple choice question and I need to work on those, then this is the report you'd want to look at. Student responses is good so you can see where there may be problem areas. The rest of these I don't really mess with very much. Reporting category performance is a good one. You don't really need that by student unless you just want it. TEACs performance is a good one because it gives you the overall TEACs. How are they doing on that one as a class? If you want to know who needs tutorial on which ones, then you'd click that. SE performance, when you drill down and you get down to the nitty gritty, you would want the performance. You could also get a tutorial there if you wanted to. So to view the report, you can either click here or you can export the report data. This gives it to you in a CSV format and it's not nearly as easy to read. Last time I ran one, they don't give you the student performance data on that CSV, so it's not as good. So you click the report, takes it a few seconds to load, and you can do all of those individually or you can do them all as one. It's kind of overwhelming when you do it all at one because you see you get 29 pages worth of reports. But here would be your performance summary, your quick and dirty, how many passed, how many were at masters, meets, approaches, and how many were below. Then your student performance gives you similar information except it breaks it down by student. Did they pass? If so, were they at approaches, meets, or masters? Student responses tells you what their answers, whether they were correct or not. If it has a plus mark, that means they got full points for that question. They got the answer correct. Over here, like number 3 has 1/2, that means it was a 2-point question. If they got 1 point, that was considered mastery. So it tells you they got 1 point. Here you see a plus mark, that means they got both points for that one. Down here you see a 0, that means they didn't get any points for that one. And so over here we see there's an equation. They either got it wrong or they got it right. It's 0 or plus. It was just a 1-point thing. So we can see some trends here if you really want to get down into the nitty-gritty of that. The item analysis, it brings you your reporting category. It brings you to the SE, tells you what the correct answer was, how many chose that answer correctly, and then it breaks down how many chose each of the others. It'll do that for every question. Then it'll give it to you in graph form, so if you didn't want to wade through all of that, you could look down here and see item number 14, item number 12, item number 8. Those are real big problem areas. We for sure ought to look at those first and then go back and look at some of the others. Item number 3, item number 24, 28, they knocked those out of the park. So go and look and see what they did well on those. Here's where you can see individual students, what they picked on each one. So you can look and see, number 1, the majority of them picked the correct answer. Of the ones that missed, D had the highest number of misses. So you might want to look at number D. Is there a misconception? What was it about that question that made them choose D? If you look at it and they're kind of even across the board, then that means they're just guessing and they probably really didn't know it. So that'd be a good question to go back and look at. Here's your item mastery. It shows you how well they're doing on those non-multiple choice questions. So on these you can see they're doing pretty well, mostly all in the green. On most of them, 1 out of 2 points was considered mastery. So most of your students are doing pretty well on those inline choice, hotspot, multiple response types of questions. If you see that they're consistently not doing well on a particular type, then that would be a good way to go back and say, okay, we need to practice using this type of question in our assignments and our assessments in class because they need a little bit more practice. And then here you have your reporting category performance. You can see how well they're doing on all of them. This particular class, reporting category 1, they're doing real well. Got a little bit of work to do here, but we're not in terrible shape considering we still have a couple months until we have a STAR test. Then it breaks it down by the individual TEKs. And you can see where our strong points are, where we need to work on. Probably the weaker ones are the areas we haven't gotten to yet on this particular test. And then the last one is the SE performance. It gives you the individual SE, describes what it is, tells you how many times it was tested. So you can see this one was tested more than once. It weights on the test higher, and you can get the mastery on it. So looking at this kind of gives you a good idea of how many questions they're going to ask on each type of TEK. Here you get the same thing in a graphic form. So you can go and say, well, let's look at this TEK a little bit more. It's quite a bit lower than all the others. Is it because we haven't covered it yet, or did they not get it? Either way, let's go back and look at that one. So those are the major reports that you would use as the result of a CBA that are going to give you the data that you would need.